Hello, welcome to GCSE Sociology. Just waiting for everybody to log in here and then I'll make a start. My name is Miss Harper and I am Deputy Curriculum Area Lead for Social Sciences, and I actually run the GCSE Sociology course. So welcome to the taster today. So like I said, I'm just waiting for everybody to join and then we will get started today. So as you can see on the board there, you're in the right session, GCSE Sociology. And what I'm hoping to do today is to give you a real feel for what the lessons are actually going to be like. So if I just go on to my next slide, which is here. So this is what I'm hoping that at the end of today's session, you'll be able to do these things. So I'm aware that within schools, very few schools actually run GCSE Sociology. So for many of you, it really will be a new course. So I'm hoping then that by the end of today's session, you're actually going to know what sociology actually is. You're going to be able to define some of the key terms. The major one in sociology is social structure. So you're going to know what we mean by social structures, and then to be able to provide specific examples of social structures. I'm hoping that you can explain the function of what a social structure is. And then also what we always like to do is to develop your critical thinking skills. So really getting you thinking. And sociology is one of those subjects that requires you to really think, okay? So really examine your own ideas, your own thoughts, and to challenge those as well. So much of what we do really is quite discursive. We want to get a bit of a debate going in the lesson as well. Okay, so just moving on from there then, let's have a little look at this. And so what is sociology? Now I have got a bit of a video clip here, but what I'm hoping to do is to kind of talk you through it first of all, and then if we've got time, we'll go back and we'll have a little look at the clip. If we don't have time, then obviously you can just type into YouTube, what is sociology, crash course sociology as I put there, and it will bring up the actual video clip for you. So it's it's about a 10-minute clip telling you quite a bit about sociology there. So you might be thinking, why is that big eye there looking at you? Well, essentially, sociology is really about people watching. So, you know, we're quite nosy. We like to know about people. We like to find out lots about society and the people that live in society. But that's a bit creepy, isn't it, to think that we're just people watchers. So that's a really basic idea of what sociology is. But to put this into more organized terms, I guess, for want of a better word, it's really the systematic study of society and the people that make up society. So rather than us just being peeping toms, what we really are, we're scientists, we're social scientists that examine objectively the social world. Hence why we've got the second picture there, where you've got more of a scientist there looking at society in scientific terms there. So that's a kind of way of looking at sociologists. So let's look at some key concepts there. So I've just told you that sociology is about people watching. It's the systematic study of society and the people that make up society. That's essentially what sociology is. Sociologists themselves are the people that look at how human beings interact with one another. So it's not just about looking at the individuals. That's what distinguishes sociology from psychology. So where psychology looks at the individual, the mind and behavior, sociologists recognize that people don't walk around in their own bubble, blinkered and oblivious to what's going on around them. What they're looking at, is the human interaction, how people interact with one another on a day-to-day basis, okay? What that would include then is the social rules, or what we call the norms, that largely unite or divide us as a group, essentially. So we have various different norms and values in society that largely enable social life to be possible. If we didn't know what the norms or the rules are for behavior, social life wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't know what's expected of us. We wouldn't know, you know, how to largely navigate our way through society, through life, okay? And so essentially what sociologists look at are these norms and values that glue us together as communities, essentially. And there are various institutions in society that help us to navigate our way around life, essentially. And we call these social structures, and that's really the basis of today's taster lesson. What are social structures? Can we think of some examples of them? What are the function, what are the roles of those social structures as well? So how do those social structures help us? How do they control our behavior, etc.? So it starts off with society. So if we think about society, yes, we are the people that make up society, but some sociologists argue that society is essentially like a human body. So if we think about the human body, it has various different organs. All those organs have different functions that make up the whole. And like the human body, society has various different institutions that all work together to maintain the whole. Okay, so that's quite a useful way of viewing society. Like a human body, for society to work properly, it needs these institutions to perform a specific role. Okay, so think about the human body. What's the role of the brain? What's the role of the heart, etc.? What are the role of the eyes, etc.? And so what sociologists largely do is they may well make that comparison between different organs of the body and different institutions in society, okay? So just getting you thinking just for a moment then, can you think of ways in which society may well be like the human body? If we were going to give each particular institution a function, let's take, for example, the family. The family is a social structure in society. What kind of role might the family perform, for example? What point is it? Why aren't we just, giving birth to children and then letting them look after themselves? So what distinguishes, human society from non-human society? We raise our children to a much older age than animals or non-human animals would raise their children. Okay, what's the point? Why do we do it? Okay, some of the things that sociologists would think about there. So moving on then to this key term, social structures. So this is the central term that I want us to look at today. And essentially, social structures then are the institutions in society, for example, the family, which I mentioned before, and then also the education system. So thinking about social structures then, can you think of any other examples of social structures? So if you can think of any of them, so I've just given you two there, the family, the education system, there's some of the institutions in society. Can you think of any more? If you can, could you put those into the Q&A box for me, please? So unfortunately, you're not able to actually shout out answers, but you could put some into the Q&A box. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes just to have a go at that. So if you're able to think of any others, what are the, so if institutions is, you're not sure what institutions to think about organizations. What sort of organizations do we have in society that might be considered a social structure? I'm just going to give you all a few minutes to have a think of those. Don't be shy. So just to give you a hint, where do we get our information from? That might be an institution. Where might, who makes the rules in society? Who punishes us in society? Who looks after our health and well-being in society? So these are all institutions that constitute social structures. There's a couple of hints there for you. Can anybody think of the institutions that provide those kinds of functions? Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to move on to this slide here then. So this might help you to figure out some of the institutions in society, what we call the social structures. So here are some descriptions of functions. So what I'd like you to do then is to share or to try and come up with some ideas in the Q&A, which institution or which organization largely is responsible for any of these particular function. So just some descriptions here. So just type in for me, please, any one of these that you think relates to a specific institution or social structure. So just an organization, really, that's what we're looking at. Okay, let's have a little look then. So this first one then, we've got here then that it is the most basic unit in society, probably the most important, and it's where we learn appropriate behavior for society. So it's the very first institution that any of us come across. So it's where we learn things like respect for others, morals, our manners, etc. We learn to talk here. We learn how to eat with utensils, etc. So this would be, I'm hoping that you've guessed it, this would be the family, okay? Secondly then, this follows on from where the family starts. It equips us with the skills needed as an adult in society. So it's where we learn more morals, it's where we learn our role largely in society. It's where we may well learn the skills needed to be a fully functioning adult in society. We may well learn the skills to do a particular job. So this, of course, would be the education system, okay? The third one then, this has an important function, making sure we're fit and healthy. It deals with illness when it happens, and it ensures a smooth running of society. Again, this one would be the health service. Obviously, you know, we need people to be fit and healthy in order to do their jobs. Imagine if, you know, everybody went ill one day, you know, everybody was ill, nobody went into work, you know, society would collapse if that happened. You know, one person being sick or a few people being sick is not a big issue, but if en masse everybody is sick, then it, you know, society won't function. Think about, you know, people who do, you know, the bus drivers, transport workers. If they were all sick, how people get to work if they don't own a car? You know, if all the teachers were sick, you know, they wouldn't be there to educate the children. You know, think about it. Not only do teachers provide skills and knowledge, but if all the teachers were sick and students couldn't come to school or couldn't go to college, then obviously they're going to be at home. And for young children, that's going to be an issue, because if their parents work, parents can't go out to work if nobody's there to, you know, look after their children during the day. If children are at home during the day, then parents have to stay home during the day. So everything has a knock-on effect. And that's one of the things that sociologists examine, the knock-on effect. What is going to ensure that smooth running of society? The fourth one then is this surrounds us and we consume this in some way every day. So TV, magazines, the internet, newspapers, people are more and more influenced by the, well, it's right there, it's mass media, okay? So whether it's social media, whether it's TV, whether it's newspapers, this is where largely we get our information from, okay? Very, very influential in society, one of the very influential social structures in society. And then finally then, this is needed in society to ensure that those who go against the system are dealt with. Again, we can't just assume that all parents are doing their job effectively in socializing children into correct behavior. We have to have some form of mechanism to ensure that everybody does the right thing. Okay? And if they don't, then we need to know what the consequences are. And one of the things that we do examine in sociology is crime and deviance. Okay, so largely, if someone doesn't go along with the majority, if someone does something that goes against our rules in society, there has to be some form of consequence, some form of punishment. And so therefore, the criminal justice system, the police, let's say, for example, are the ones who would largely deal with those who go against the law or the rules that we have put in place in society. So the front line of the criminal justice system is the police force, and then they largely are what we call the gatekeepers to the criminal justice system. Obviously, you've got the courts and prison system, etc., that would largely deal with any kind of misdemeanors. So these are some of the things that we would largely examine. So all of these different institutions, family, education system, health service, mass media, the police force or the criminal justice system, all of those institutions work together to maintain the whole of society. So for society to function optimally, if it's to function smoothly, all of these institutions or social structures have a part to play. And one of the jobs of sociologists then is to examine the part that those particular institutions play in helping the individual in society, but ultimately to ensure that society runs smoothly. Without society running smoothly, it would collapse. There would be what we call anarchy. It's largely what we call chaos. We need things to work smoothly for society to run smoothly so that social life is actually possible, okay? And that's one of the basic tenets of sociology, really, looking at how these organizations fit together to maintain the whole. So that's quite a central concept in sociology. Does anybody have any questions about that, first of all? Okay, so feel free at any point to actually ask any questions. I'll be able to see you ask the questions in the chat box anyway, in the Q&A, sorry. But I'd like to just move on anyway. So here we have a list of possible social structures. Some of them we already looked at, for example, the family, education system, mass media, health service, criminal justice system. The two on there that we haven't looked at is the government and religion. So just thinking about this just for a moment, remember earlier we said that some sociologists see society like a human body. So you've got the various different organs. And what I want you to be thinking about, and I want you to think outside the box a little bit now, looking at those institutions, what part of the body do you think they would relate to? So what part of the body do you think the government would occupy? What part of the body would the mass media occupy? I mean, I have my own ideas, and there is no right or wrong. This is sociology, it's all up for debate. So which part of the human body do you think these particular social structures would occupy? I'm really interested to see how imaginative you could all be. This is like a really, it's an exercise that students always love to do in the beginning, at the start of the course. So I just want to get you started on something like this. Think about those different structures. What part of the human body do you think they relate to? I'm going to let you into my thinking in a moment, but first I want to give you a couple of minutes just to have a go yourself. Any ideas? There is no wrong answer here, by the way. Okay, so let's look at this then. So if I was doing this, I would probably say that the family would be the heart. Okay, so the family is the heart because it's one of the very first things that's formed in the human body. And, without a beating heart, then, the body wouldn't exist, would it, essentially? And so I think the family is at the center of society. So it's your first, I suppose, introduction to others. Okay, the family instill all that you are, all that you should be, all that you can aspire to. So that's why I think the family is the heart. I think the government then would be maybe the brain of society. So the government's the thing that, kind of imposes rules. They're the ones that make the laws. They're the ones that largely look after you from cradle to the grave in terms of, the benefit system, for example. So I think the government have quite a big hand in maintaining society. And that's why I think they're the brain. You know, the brain is arguably the most important part of the body as well. Okay. And so it controls, you know, bodily functions. And in some ways, you know, in most ways, actually, the government controls society. So there you have it. Family is the heart, government as the brain. I think the mass media then would be the eyes. They're the ones who, you know, they see what's going on in society. They tell us what's going on in society. So I think the mass media largely would be the eyes. That's like really a starting point. So I don't want to give you all of them. This is just my reasoning. And so obviously, you know, you could have your own individual ideas and reasoning behind it. There is no right or wrong, really. It's just about your own interpretation. Much of what we do in sociology examines that, okay? So that brings me to the end of the taster. So what we've looked at then is what is sociology, and it's a systematic study of society and the people that make up society. We've looked at one of the essential key concepts, which is social structures. And there are a number of different social structures or institutions that make up society. The whole function of it is to keep society running smoothly. And that really is, you know, kind of an introduction to sociology. The slide that I've got in front of you now just gives you the course structure. You can find this on the website anyway and under course information. But largely, sociology is made up of 2 units. They would comprise of 2 exam papers that are taken at the end of the year in the summer. Unit 1 is about families, education. So we're largely looking at the main social structures here. Families, education, sociological theory, as well as examining some research methods such as questionnaires, observations, interviews, etc. And then unit 2 then would be looking at crime and deviance in society, looking at social stratification. That largely looks at inequality in society. And then again, we look at theory and methods again. So it is 100% exam based. So we're working towards exams. You have 2 papers in the summer, which would be an hour and 45 minutes each. And you have a selection of questions. Some of them are multiple choice. Some of them will be extended writing questions, but you will do standardized assessments throughout. Now, where I want to end this is looking at sociology in everyday life. Okay, so thinking about what sociology is everything. Okay, sociology is largely everything, and this is, I've just pulled up some news articles right here, some images, just to give you an inkling about the fact that sociology is everywhere and it's everything. So we've got a case here of Sarah Everard and her disappearance. If you're not sure who that is, a little bit of homework for you then. You can have a little look at Sarah Everard, who disappeared, and later a police officer was arrested, which kind of blows out the water, this idea that the police are protecting to serve. And so this is something that we may well look at. The middle image there is about England footballers taking the knee. There was a lot of debate about that, and so that's something that sociologists are really interested in. What are the arguments on both sides of the debate? And then, as always, you know, right now, this is our new normal, isn't it? What's going on in terms of COVID and lockdown. And so looking at this article in terms of, you know, it's quite a subjective point of view, this idea, will we ever be free, you know? And so that's something that sociologists would largely debate as well, okay? So that was really kind of like a whistle-stop tour of sociology. Like I said before, much of what we do is discussion-based. We generally tend to start each lesson with, you know, what's going on in the world today, you know, what's going on in the news, and having a bit of a debate about that as well. But like I said, sociology really is everywhere. It's all around us. So it's really important that you're aware of actually what's going on in the world. And it's something that we are keen to explore in sociology. So I've got a couple of minutes left. Now's your chance to ask any questions. If you have them, more than happy to answer any questions. Okay. If, for example, you can't think of any questions right now, but you think of some, you know, later on or in the days to come or weeks to come, then just feel free to contact admissions and put your questions forward, and they can forward those to me anyway, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Okay. And I do look forward to seeing you in the new term. I wish you well. Okay, in fact, actually, I'm going to end it here. So if you're joining us after the summer holidays, these are things that will be useful to you actually for the start of the course. And that's my final slide, everyone. So I didn't actually have a chance to show the video, but do feel free to go onto YouTube, look for what is sociology crash course, and it will bring up a 9 to 10 minute video for you. All the best.